All right, so we're going to roll right into our next session, which is The Power of Donor Segmentation by Bradley Martin from Kindful. So Bradley is a Senior Director of Customer Acquisition at Kindful. He's spent 10 years helping organizations implement and optimize CRMs, marketing automation, and analytics solutions for nonprofits. So Bradley, I would love to have you take it away. And just before that, thank you again, Kindful, for being a sponsor and partner with us for this summit. And so I'm going to go ahead and share the link to Kindful's website here, so those that are interested can also take a look. So Bradley, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having us and allowing us to sponsor this year. The content's been great so far.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's great to have you be part of it. So thankful.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead, if it's okay, I'll go ahead and share my screen and just
Yeah,
jump right into the content.
absolutely. Sounds good.
Share. All right. So, yeah, thanks again for CauseVox for having us. I'm sorry, I'm just getting everything a little situated here on my screen so I can make sure I have everything squared away. So again, as Candace said, my name is Bradley Martin. I lead the marketing here at Kindful. And one of my favorite things to talk about is email marketing, and specifically how to make email marketing more effective. It's something that I think really email marketing is one of, I would say, one of the more underutilized tools in really accessing all of its power. And segmentation can be used, donor segmentation specifically can be used in all kinds of different marketing tactics, not just email. It can be used across social media, can be used in direct mail, can be used in things, all kinds of different tactics. But I feel like one of the places that it has the most power is with email. And so I'm going to be sharing today through the lens really of email, because I think it's a place where we can do so much more work and get better results, significantly better results, by just spending a little bit of time thinking about who we're addressing in our messages. So today's agenda, we're going to just really jump through why is segmentation important, how do you determine what data to track, how to segment the donors you already have, and then I'm going to actually jump into two tools. I'm going to jump into Kindful really quickly and show you, if you have a donor management system in place, how easy this is. And I'm also going to jump into an email marketing platform and just show you a couple quick segments that you might want to create to help make your message resonate better. So we're going to actually jump in and get into some of the tactical tools today. So what is donor segmentation? When I define it, right, I would say donor segmentation is the process of dividing an organization's constituents into specific groups based on predetermined attributes. So what do some of those attributes look like, right? I would say there's three common types of attributes that are most used. One is just demographic information. Two is giving history. And then three is constituent behavior, which I think behavior is the thing that sometimes the hardest to track, but can be the most useful in the way of actually resonating with a donor. And so, Candace, I think we sent you over the poll question. I hope it's up. So wanted to start this off with a quick question. How confident are you in your donor segmentation strategy? And so, Candace and Jenna, are you guys able to launch that, or is that something I should do?
Let me go ahead and get that all set for you. I'm so sorry. Give me one moment.
And so what we're going to ask is, I love to just get a feel for how everybody feels, like where they stand in their current segmentation. And so number one is going to be, how confident are you in your, or I'm 100% confident. I'm a segmentation ninja. So we've got these really clear donor segmentations that we're using. Two is we have a few key segments in place, or, we segment every now and then. Three is we segment from time to time, but there's a lot of work to do. And four is I just mass email my whole database every time, please help. And so I think they will launch this in just a second, and we'll be able to get you guys a live response to that and see where everybody stands.
All right, launching.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Lots of responses coming in. We're at about 175, quickly climbing.
Sweet.
Great.
And I would even say on this, for me, I wouldn't say I'm 100% confident. And this is something I know I should be doing really well. I would say we have a few key segments in place at Kindful, but we could do better, right? And so I'm interested to see what everyone's responses are.
Responses are slowing down. I'll let it get to 250 and I'm going to end it.
Great. Thanks so
Right.
much.
Of course. And I'm going to share those results so everyone can see them.
So, it's very interesting. So looking at the results, right? 40% of you say we segment from time to time, but there's work to do. 36% says we aren't segmenting at all. Help, please, right? And then only 1% of you, 3 of you, is 100% confident, which, I want to be clear, like that doesn't surprise me. This, I do this presentation from time to time, or a variation of this presentation, and this is typically what we see. And so I'm going to keep going here. So thanks so much for everyone who responded. That'll help me kind of gauge where to dig in a little bit deeper. Whoops. So let's just jump into why is segmentation important, right? And so I don't know if you guys are like me, but I thought this was a great representation. 10 years ago, you got a ding on your computer, you've got mail. It was an amazing thing, right? It was like, wow, I got an email, right? Now, if you're anything like me, you probably have hundreds, and I will shamefully say thousands of unread emails. And so it's harder and harder to get attention in the inbox. And it's challenging. And what will help do that better is I'm going to talk about relevance, right? And I'll talk about that in just a second. But let's talk about why is segmentation important, right? And so MailChimp did a study, right, where they said the effects of list segmentation on email marketing stats. So when people segmented their database broadly, they saw opens increase by 14.31%, right? Clicks increased by over 100%, so doubling their click-through rate. And then unsubscribes lower by almost 10%. And so when you really think about those compounding effects of opens increasing by 14% and clicks increasing by 100%, if you just send an email just to 1,000 people, it's about 28 more clicks you will receive versus not segmenting your list. So there's a lot of value here in actually segmenting your list. And then this is a thing that I really want. If you take anything away from today's presentation, I think this is the one that I would want you to think about most. And that is relevance is more important than personalization. And so I want to show a quick story of like 2 subject lines, right? So subject line A, this is personalization. Bradley, thank you for your support, right? Subject line B is you help provide water to 7,432 people this year, right? And so which one's more impactful? If you're an organization, let's say we have an organization that uses Kindful called African Leadership. They provide education, water, and then other supplies to underserved areas of Africa. But if I donated to their water campaign, right, this may resonate more with me and be more relevant than them just using personalization in a subject line or in the email. And I think sometimes we get personalization confused with relevance, right? So how do I send a message to someone that is something that they are going to care about most? And that's really the theme of everything we're trying to do here, is dig into why do people care, and how do I send them a message that they find relevant, because that will increase my open rate and click-through rate, and ultimately the result I'm looking for out of my email. So let's dive a little bit quickly into what data should you track. I want to start off here by saying proceed with caution, right? So one of the things that is most challenging about donor segmentation is what I like to call analysis paralysis. You've probably heard that before, but it's really easy to allow yourself to get into all these different ways you can segment your database. I would say start simple. Start with your most key segmentations. Instead of trying to think about like getting down to every nitty-gritty detail. So as we go through this, I'm going to provide a lot of different suggestions on how you could segment your database, but I would really encourage you to pick one or two instead of thinking about trying to implement all of these. So first off, start with your goals. All right? What is your organization's key goals, and what are you trying to accomplish? And I think this is the thing I would say is like every time you send an email, every time you create an automated email sequence or automated email flow, you really need to think about what is the goal of that flow, and then ultimately who should receive that to get the ultimate result, right? So it could be driving more donations to a certain campaign. It could be just increasing volunteers, right? Or it could just be broader awareness, giving an update, cultivating your donors, giving them something of value. Right? So what would signal that a constituent will be interested in these goals, right? So think about that. Like what have they given? So again, going back to like the water analogy, did they give to a certain campaign and you have a really meaningful update to give there? You might be tempted to send that to your whole database, but if it's around a specific program or campaign, maybe you should just send it to the people who gave to that campaign, right? And then, 3 is evaluate if you have the data for some or all constituents. So sometimes you might find, I really want to send it to these folks or this certain list, but I don't actually have the data today to track that. And so number 4, start compiling or collecting for constituents without data. So as you really start to think about your key segments, you're really going to need to think about how do I go collect data that I may not have. But it's okay sometimes to start with the data you do have. So again, we're going to go a little bit deeper now into these specific types of attributes. So it's constituent demographic information, giving history, and constituent behavior. So demographic information is typically one of the easiest ones to segment by. It's things like location, age, gender, marital status. Do they have kids? Wealth data that you can append sometimes to your database. Their education level, school attended, many different things here. And typically you find a lot of this information like location and things like that based more on their, when they give you a donation. Giving history gets a little bit deeper and is where you can really start to get into meaningful campaigns. So what was their last gift date? What was their last gift amount? Their first gift date, their first gift amount, their lifetime gift amount, gift categories, campaigns or programs, right? How often do they give? Are they a recurring donor? In-kind gift amounts. So this is where giving history can really start to help you with things like live bump reports, making sure that you're alerting people that maybe they gave a certain amount last year. As we're going into end of year campaigns, this gets really important. Who's already given to you in 2020? As you go into an end of year campaign, you may want to omit the people who've already given to you or given to a certain campaign. So as much as adding people to a list, actually, suppressing people from a list can be just as important. And then lastly is constituent behavior. Right? So this is where you really get into the why behind why people give. And this to me is where it always gets most interesting for me. And I also think likely most powerful, right? So what program or campaign did someone give to? And you can really start to understand what they're passionate about, right? Have they volunteered before? Have they attended certain events, right? Marketing engagement. Have they been opening and clicking on your emails? And then advocacy interactions. Have they filled out a petition, signed a certain petition, things like that? These are things where you can really start to dive into understanding really what makes someone tick and what they're passionate about. So you're starting to think about how you want to segment or what you want to segment by. Now, how do you segment your current donors? Right? Number one is you really need a single source of truth. This is something that is really important. And oftentimes organizations that come to Kindful, we find that they've got data in all different kinds of places. And I want to be clear, like that could come through a donor management software like a CRM. It also could just be a Excel sheet, right? You know, that's a little bit blasphemy coming from a donor management platform, but you know, sometimes some of the best work can just be done in Excel, right? And then also a lot of people choose to use an email marketing software to actually track really detailed information about their donors and their most key information. So where does some of that data come from, right? Again, it can come from your donor management system. If you have one of those, that should probably be your single source of truth. It can come from your fundraising platform. It can come from how people have interacted with your email marketing software. It can also come from event management software if you use an event management tool. And lastly, it can come from surveys. So I want to just give a quick note on surveys because number one, I love them. I think they're one of the most underutilized tools in learning more about our donors, our customers, our constituents, right? The number two reason, it shows you're interested in learning about your donor. Sending a survey really shows that you have intent in understanding what they care about, and you're not just wanting to say, hey, look at our organization, I just want to tell you about us. I want to learn about you. Number three, there are a ton of free platforms. If you're a Google user, Google Surveys or Google Forms, which can just basically be a survey, is one of the easiest tools to use, and it puts everything right in a really nice Google sheet where you can segment, put filters on it, things like that. Right? Number four, they are great to use at the beginning of a relationship. And so I've seen some organizations do amazing things with surveys when someone has given their first gift online. So online gifts, sometimes they're amazing, right? Someone gives on your website for the first time, you've never seen them before. Kudos to you. That's great that you're driving people to your website. But sometimes it's hard to know like what they care about the most. And so sometimes just sending a survey with your thank you letter and say, I'd love to learn more about you. Would you mind taking a 5-question survey? Can be great. You could ask them things like, how often would you like to be communicated with? What programs do you care most about? You know, things like that, and really get a little bit deeper into understanding more about them. One word of caution, right? Keep surveys short and easy to use. And so just a handful of questions typically works best. Number 5 is open-ended questions are hard to segment, but will help you learn like never before, right? And so I really want to hit on open-ended questions for a second, right? So one of the most powerful questions you could potentially ask in a survey is, why did you give to our organization? Don't give them a drop-down list. The problem sometimes with drop-down list is that your own assumptions have to form the drop-down. Sometimes if you just ask an open-ended question, yes, you can't easily filter, but if you just take the time to read through a handful of responses, it may be amazing what you learn about your donors and why they chose to give to your organization. Could just been that a friend recommended, or how did they hear about you? Leave that open-ended and you might be really surprised. It's a great opportunity to learn. So it's a little bit, sorry, I had to do a little bit of a thing about surveys because I think they can help you segment. But again, I think they're one of the best tools that or one of the most underutilized tools that can provide the best results in terms of you better understanding your donors. So how to integrate technology. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to jump into 2 tools real fast. And I'm going to just show you how you actually can do some segmentation within tools. I have access to 2 tools. One is Emma, it's the email marketing platform. I worked for them for 5 years prior to working for Kindful, so I understand the platform pretty well. And then Kindful, I'm not going to do a full demo, but I'm just going to jump in and show you, if you have a donor management system, it doesn't have to be Kindful, it could be any of the donor management systems. You should be able to do some segments like what I'm going to show you today. Again, I did want to make one notable exception. Excel is still a great tool, right? And if you're really looking to do donor segmentation, getting all of your donations, all your transactions, your donor information into an Excel tool sometimes can be one of the easiest ways to segment. Excel, Google Sheets, things like that have really powerful tools that can help you filter. So I'm going to, if you'll bear with me here for just a second, whoops, I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to exit out of my presentation, and I may have to log into a couple platforms here. So give me 1 second. Let's see if I'm still logged into Emma. The Zoom bar is here. So this account, this is actually a live account. It's the account that Kindful used to use to send out. We've since moved to a little bit more of a robust platform. Let's see if I'm still logged in here. But I am, great. You can see here, in this platform, we have almost 35,000 people, right? And so one of the segments I thought about thinking about was, one of the things, it's a little bit of also like a pro tip around email, is one of the things that we oftentimes don't do enough, and it might feel counterproductive, is actually clean out our email database. Because tools like Gmail, other ESPs that actually, receive the emails and give them to your donors, actually give you kind of a mailing score based on your stats, how many people open your emails, how many people click, and things like that. So sometimes keeping people in your database that are no longer opening your emails, are no longer interacting with your emails, can actually hurt your mailing stats and make it so that your emails are getting in less people's inboxes. So it's a thing that you really want to think about. And I would recommend, every 3 months is probably a best practice, but at most, at least every 6 months, taking a look at who's unengaged and then thinking about what you're going to do with them. So I'm going to create a segment that is unengaged contacts or unengaged, let's say, donors. And so really what I'm going to do here is in Emma, and this is the same in tools like MailChimp typically or Constant Contact, you can do different segments. So in Emma, I want to look at, so it's got a bunch of different things here. I can pull people that are already in a group I've already created. I can pull people that have specific subscriptions. I have fields in here that I could pull. But really what I want to dig into is people's behavior to my actual emails. So what I want to look at as broadly is I want to see anyone who has not opened an email. I'm going to choose any mailings. I could look at anything, but look at this. I mean, in our database, right? We have 38,000 people. We have 15,000 never opened an email at any point. And so I want to look at people who haven't opened an email actually in the last, let's say, 52 weeks. And so this number jumps up to 17,000 people who've not opened an email in the last year, right? And so these are people that I really want to take a hard look at, and I probably am going to send them an email and say, and I'm going to send a very, very personal email. It's going to be from Bradley Martin. It's not going to be from Kindful. And it's going to say something to the effect of, hey, we noticed you haven't opened an email in a while, and we just wanted to see if you still would like to receive our content. And I'm actually going to send them 2 emails. The first one and a second one that just says, hey, just checking in one last time, wanting to make sure that you aren't, looking to or don't want to continue to receive our emails. Now, what I'm going to do is if they open any of those emails, I'm going to keep them in our list, and they're going to actually drop off of this. If they stay on this list, they're going to stay in our unengaged donor list because it does it automatically. And I'm going to end up choosing to start suppressing those people when I send my, especially when I send my appeals. And then every so often, I'm going to actually go through and say, maybe everyone who hasn't opened for 104 weeks, last 2 years, I'm going to go ahead and delete from my database. And again, that might seem crazy to some people, but I don't want to, really skew my stats. And I also want to make sure that I'm sending email to people who are engaged. And so that's the things. Now, again, we haven't been using this account for almost 9 months. So that's why some of these numbers are so high. But we actually do this every 3 months in our current database. And so most of these people haven't received emails from us since we've already cleaned out our database. And so that's one thing. Another way I might segment just really quickly is if I wanted to create a list of people who who have not opened a specific email. So let's say let's see, it's been a while, like I said, since we sent some of these emails. So I want to look at something. So, we sent an email, ask us anything in February 2020. Right? Right. And here's all the people who did not open that email. So let's say I sent that to, I don't think we sent that to our whole database. But anyways, this is, again, a little bit of another trick you can use if you want to send the same email twice. Just change the subject line, send it to everyone who never opened it, and you can sometimes increase your response to an email just by sending the same email twice. Because if people didn't open it in the first 72 hours, they typically deleted it, or it's too far down in their inbox and they're ever going to see it. So those are some things just within an actual email platform and how easy this really is to do. So now I'm going to actually jump into Kindful, which is a donor management system. I'm going to make sure I'm still logged in here. Continue working, yes. Yeah, okay, still logged in, so I'm going to drag that over here. So in Kindful, right, this is where, because this is a donor management system, we have a lot of information about all of our donors. But I want to run through a scenario, hypothetical scenario, right, that would be, I'm about to send my end of year appeals. I'm getting ready to send that out. I have 4,000 total constituents in my database. But really what I want to dig into is I want to send a thank you message with an additional ask to the people who have already donated, but then I want to send a separate email to the people who have not donated this year. And so because I want to send 2 specific messages, and I really want to, push on thank you to the people who have already donated and give them an additional opportunity to give. But people who have not given, I obviously don't want to tell them thank you because they haven't given yet this year, but I want to send, an email that's really an appeal to them specifically. So within a tool like Kindful, what I'm going to first look at is I'm going to look at people's, just have they ever given to us? I'm sorry, this is, get this reloaded here. I'm wondering if it thinks I have logged out because I had this open for just a little while here. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to just put in anyone who's given more than $1, right? So this my 4,000 constituents now turned down to 653 constituents that have given to me, to my organization, our demo account, Sea Turtles, in the last year, period. And then I'm going to add on just one other filter here that has transaction. Let's see here, has transaction in the past, let's say past 12 calendar months. So that's going to take us down to 155 donors, right? And so if you really start to think about this, these are the 155 people who've given to me in the last 12 months. If I wanted to do this a little bit differently, I could say, well, let me just look at the people who has transaction in year 2020. So now I'll get down to 135 donors who've given me a donation in 2020. So I want to take this amount, and I want to select all of them. And then quickly I can just add a group and say, okay, I'm going to create a new group of donors. Right? So I'm going to add them to a group. And let's say I'm going to create a new group that is given in 2020. I can save that group. And now when I go over to my groups, I have a new group given in 2020, right, that I can take different actions with. So I can view the contacts, group, edit, delete. I can also, this is where if I have Kindful synced with something like MailChimp, it's going to sync that group directly over to MailChimp and create a new group there. I also can do a mail merge from this group. And then even if I wanted to look at group insights, I can jump in and see a little bit more about this group. So 67% of them have a recurring transaction and things like that. And they have given us, wow, $30 million this year. Good job on us. And so this is just a little bit of detail around how you can use an actual donor management system to start to segment your database. And so I hope a little bit of that was helpful in showing some real world examples of how you can actually use the technology at your disposal. I mean, Emma is an email tool, like I said, that we've used. We have a great relationship with them. MailChimp, if you're not, using an email marketing platform specifically, has a free account, I think up to 2,500 records. So there's a lot there that you can dive into. And I would assume almost any donor management system will allow you to do the kind of segmentation I just did. So if you're interested in going deeper into email marketing, I would really encourage you to go check out the State of Nonprofit Email Cultivation. We did this with Next After. It's a great ebook. It's very in-depth that can go through how to better improve your donor communications and get more out of email. And then lastly, if you're interested in learning more about Kindful, you can check this out. Didn't get the promo over to Candace and the team, but if you mention that you heard about us at the CauseVox Digital Fundraising Summit, you'll get free onboarding. That's a almost $1,000 value. So jump in here. Happy to answer any questions. I'll stop presenting so we can see my full face. But yeah, those are some thoughts about donor segmentation. Happy to answer any questions there are.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bradley. Such a good session, just talking through very practical ways you can segment your donors. And I think it is all about the more personalized and the more specific you can be, the better. It's just, if you get an email and you feel like it actually feels personal and relates to you, you're way more likely to stay engaged and hopefully continue donating and contributing at your organization. So yeah, thank you again. And thanks to Kindful again for being a sponsor and for offering that discount option for all the registrants. So let's take a look at the chat pane and pick out a few questions that we can answer in our time today. So any questions that jump out at you, Bradley? I'd be happy to pick out a few as well.
I'm looking through, sorry, I'm a terrible multitasker, so I haven't been looking at any of them while I was presenting. So someone asked what the third attribute was. I would say that's behavior. So again, really looking at constituent behavior can be really, really important in terms of really trying to understand. I think the thing when we think about segmentation, it's really easy to just think about gift amounts and stuff like that. But I will say is like, how can you start to learn why people are giving, right? It's one of the things that I think is one of the hardest things to do in some cases, but also most powerful in terms of trying to understand how to communicate better is, can you get a little bit deeper into the why?
Shruti asks, how do you get your audience to fill out a survey through email if there is no incentive involved?
Incentives do help a lot. I mean, I will say that. But I think starting the relationship, your most engaged email or your most opened email is going to be the first email you send to someone after they've given to you the first time. And typically those emails can be upwards of 60 to 70% open rates. They're massive, right? And so I think sending a survey during that email will increase your likelihood of getting someone to fill it out. Secondly, as part of the cultivation study we did with Next After, one of the things that if you go read that ebook, one of the things you're going to find is sending personal emails or emails that look like they're personal. So instead of sending a survey from actually, Kindful or from your organization's name, send it from your executive director's email address, or at least their name, and say, I think CauseVox actually does this really well. If you get their emails, you'll see most of them come from Rob or Candace. They don't come from CauseVox. They come from an individual, and the email looks like it's been written from an individual to an individual. And so sending an email that looks that way and putting not a button, but just a link in the copy, say, I'd love for you to fill out the survey so we can learn more about you and help send you things that you care about the most, will, I think, drastically increase your delivery rate. Also, I'll keep going on this, but I also saw Charity Water did a really interesting thing where they did a matching donor campaign, but the matching gift was based on people giving feedback to a survey, not actually giving a gift. And so they got a major donor that was willing to give a major amount, and then they asked if they could use that amount to entice people to give. So the incentive was, if you fill out the survey, $100 will go to providing water to people in need. And so they got a lot of people to give, and the incentive wasn't, or a lot of people to fill out the survey, but the incentive wasn't for them. It was for their population they serve. So it's a really kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, that's a really cool example. I really like that. I'd love to see more organizations do that. Cool. I saw another question come in. This one was about what is the average email open and click-through rate for nonprofits?
So what we've been seeing in recent years, and I will say, as we've been socially distancing, the coronavirus situation, open rates have decreased. But a good open rate is anything above 20% is really kind of stellar. I think, a lot of times a click-through rate sometimes can just be in the low percentages. It could be, anywhere from 1 to 5%. And that's okay. But obviously, really kind of tracking yourself, it's a little hard. People always ask for these stats. Like, it's a little hard to compare yourself to just broadly an average. And I would say, I would challenge you, instead of like comparing yourself to other organizations, is to compare yourself to yourself and just really look at your own benchmarks and see how you can continue to get better. And so if you currently have a 20% open rate, can you push it to 25 or 30? And think about it that way, instead of being a little too consumed with people, who's not what the averages are, because averages are just that, they're averages, and they can be a little tough. So I would say, look at your own open rate and see if you can, push it up a little bit by being more specific in your message.
Awesome. Okay, great. I had a couple people asking about, what was that book title that you mentioned?
Yeah. So it's a donor cultivation book, and it's really it's an ebook, like I said. Next After and I put together, or Next After and Kindful put together. Next After really did a lot of the work, but they actually went through and they did a big study around how organizations communicate after someone gives a donation on their website. And it was really fascinating. They tried to give donations to 250 organizations, and they only got communications after the donation to 199 organizations, period. Like 25% of the organizations sent them no email whatsoever. no thank you, not even a receipt. And so, so I think like it was a great study, and it's just got these really great tidbits in it about how you can get people to really increase your open rate. And some of it is going to feel like that's insane. You know, again, like sending an email with no images in it. Like to a lot of us, that feels scary and things like that, but it works. And so definitely suggest that you take a look at that and try some of those things out. So it was a really cool study.
Yeah. And I'm trying to find the link to that. Do you know where we would be able to find that?
So it's cultivatingdonors.com. It looks like Kyle put it into
Oh,
the
awesome.
link there.
Thanks, Kyle. You're way ahead of me.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, great. There's a couple more questions here. So, let's see. There's a couple questions around what integrations Kindful has, and what's available for email marketing with Kindful.
Yeah. So with Kindful specifically, there is we integrate with Emma, Constant Contact, MailChimp, and then here in the next few months we'll actually be integrating with HubSpot. So right now, those are the three we integrate with. But I will say the one that's used more than any is MailChimp.
Yeah, we see similar. We see MailChimp and Constant Contact are pretty close. Awesome. So someone asked, so if they're just using Excel, how would you suggest they kind of implement that for into their email marketing tool?
Well, I mean, I think most of the time, and I'm an Excel junkie. I still pull data. As a for-profit organization, we use Salesforce as our donor or as our CRM. But I typically pull, I oftentimes still pull data out of our CRM and look at it in Excel, because the power of being able to sort and filter and things like that and run pivot tables and all those things are, so powerful. And so I would say really probably the simplest thing to do is think about what columns you have in your spreadsheet and what do you believe is reliable data you can actually rely on. So something just as simple as, again, people who gave this year. Let's just use a very, very simple process. Imagine if you were using only PayPal and you downloaded all your transactions from PayPal, but you had their first name, last name, email address, and the date that their gift was given. You could just sort the date and find just scroll till you get to 2019, delete all the people from 2019, and now you have a list of your 2020 donors. And you could upload that into MailChimp, Constant Contact, anything. Their import tools are really simple to use. But again, I mean, that's a really overly simplified process, but something that we run into all the time, and so a lot of times many of the different tools, you can obviously export a CSV or Excel file, just sort by something and just scroll, right? Until you find the place that you say, okay, that's my list. So that's if you don't want to get into filtering and pivot tables and all those kind of things.
Awesome. And so I had a couple questions come in around how do you get past the barrier of most of our emails going to social or promotion boxes?
So that's tough. And I mean, and that's a thing where I think the biggest thing as of late is if you have an image in your email, typically it's going to go to a social promotion. Like that is one of Gmail's quickest things, is if there's a header image, it's going to say, well, that's a promotional email. It's almost looking at it like it's a banner ad, right? And so it's saying there's a big image there, that's promotion, because emails from individuals to individuals typically don't have a big image at the top of them, right? And so that's one of the biggest things. Secondly, it's kind of like social media a little bit when you think about the algorithms, that whatever you interact with the most, Gmail and Google and all these other tools are going to look at and say that you care a lot about it. And so this is where, again, building relevance from the get-go is so important in sending a thank you letter that people can interact with. And sending, this is where cultivation emails become so important also, where you're not just sending asks or appeals, and you're actually sending emails to people who will open your email and then click on an article, click on a video, stuff like that. Those clicks really show Google that Google or Outlook or any of those tools that there's still a lot of people that use AOL, believe it or not, but that person is interested in your content. So that's the biggest thing, is trying to get people to click and interact with your emails.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are all really, really good tips. Yeah, there's a ton of questions that came in. So if you have other things that you want to get to as far as, chatting through more about Kindful, let's, we can always jump into that. But lots of great questions here. So which one? So I think this is a pretty good one. So for a small shop, nonprofit team, are there any resources that help us segment and track all of the different interactions with donors?
Yeah, I mean, I will say a donor management platform, obviously I work for one, but I will be cautious in saying not every donor management platform works for every organization. And so Kindful may be a good fit for you. It may not, right? And so there might be a better solution. But I would say there's a lot of the barrier to cost in terms of the barrier to entry for nonprofit. If you have under, let's say 1,000 constituents you manage, is pretty low, right? When you think about the daily cost. And so I would say that that's going to be your best option, because donor management systems are built specifically to help you have these insights, where, a lot of other CRMs, a lot of people might choose to use different CRMs that are more built for for-profit companies, aren't built on the idea of donations and things like that. So like HubSpot has a free CRM that I've seen a lot of nonprofits attempt to use. And the challenge there is that it's built with the idea that you're going to sell something, not that you're collecting donations. And so it can be a little tough, but I would recommend just checking out the different donor management systems. TechSoup has a lot of great suggestions. You could look at the low cost guide to donor management systems that Tech Impact puts out. It's a really great resource that can help you figure out, who are some people you could consider. Again, I'd love for you to consider Kindful, but I'm also want to make sure I'm providing value here that's not just trying to pitch Kindful.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for going into that. I have a question from Allison. Do you have any recommendations on welcome email series for donors, or any resources and links? And so, yeah, just any recommendations for welcome emails?
Absolutely. I would do two things, and this might, again, sound a little counterproductive. I would decouple or separate your receipt email from your actual welcome email. They can both come right at the same time if you have that all automated, but I think there's a lot of value in sending someone a receipt that has the amount they gave. It's very transactional. It looks like a receipt, and you can say thank you for your donation. It's a little more cut and dry. And then sending them an email, and again, your first email that is your thank you email will get the highest open rate. One of the challenges there is typically people want to pack just so much information in there, right? They want to pack, it's like a newsletter. They pack multiple blog posts, multiple call to actions. I would really think about when someone gives, if you could pick up the phone and call them and tell them thank you, what's the one or two things you want them to know most about your organization? And really how much you appreciate their gift. So this is a great opportunity to start to build rapport, start to build a little bit more information. And so it's really an opportunity to say thank you. And if you want to learn more about the work we're doing, send them one link to, the details. Videos work exceptionally well. They don't have to be overly produced. It could be, your executive director on an iPhone saying thank you, things like that. So I would just say keep it simple, but make sure it's really focused on showing the donor how much you appreciate and what you're going to do with their donation, right? Because again, The worst thing I think that can happen for a constituent or a donor is they give you a gift and then they don't get any information about how that gift is going to be used.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just reporting that impact is so important so that they, like, of course, they're giving because they want to make an impact. So if they don't know how that impact is being made, that can really, really deter them. But if you do communicate that, then you're more likely to re-engage them going forward. So,
and one other quick note there is I think like, you can, I would suggest test, right? Try different things. Like send an email for, and testing doesn't always have to be like this really A/B split, sophisticated thing. Send an email for 2 months, 3 months to everyone who gives, then change it and send an email for another 3 months. And then go back and look at the 2 emails at the end of that 6 months and see which one got more open rates, more clicks, things like that. And so I really like the idea of benchmarking versus testing. That can, testing, you need a lot of traffic and stuff like that to actually get to something that finds meaningful, that you find really meaningful. But I would also suggest, it seems a little counterintuitive, but the best time to get someone to give a recurring gift is right after their first gift. And so if you want to get someone, if you're really trying to kick off a recurring giving program, getting someone to sign up for a recurring option right after the first gift is oftentimes the best time to do that. It can be delicate. It might feel a little icky to send like an ask right after, but it's something you might want to consider trying out.
Yeah, awesome. And then a couple more questions on email sending scores, how they can find that out, and really, just any suggestions for tracking
So
that.
unfortunately, with email sending scores, that's something like social media that they don't tell you what yours is. So you can't really go find a sending score. Now, tools like Emma and MailChimp have created their own scores that can tell you how well your emails are doing. So Emma, for example, has a 1 to 10 rating on every email, and they'll tell you how good it's doing. It'll tell you why it's doing well, like open rate, click-through rate, things like that. I would say that if you're getting a lot of people to click on your emails, you're getting a lot of people to open them, and you're continually increasing those things. But understand that it's hard to do and it takes a lot of time. And as your database grows, your open rate typically goes down. And so it can be really tough and sometimes even maybe a little discouraging if you don't see those numbers go up. But like for Kindful, for example, our average open rate is 20%. Let's like that's on average when we send, 10,000 emails, 2,000 people is going to open them. And we're okay with that. And like I said, we pay attention to who hasn't opened and we get those people out of our database. That might be the single biggest thing that you can do is get people out of your database who aren't engaging with your emails to help the ESPs, email service providers, understand that you're sending highly relevant email.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really great questions, but we probably only have time for 1 or 2 more.
Yeah.
But Roberta asks, how can you obtain email addresses for people in our database who they only have home addresses for? So it sounds like they do a lot of direct mail.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to something that might be a little bit more old school. Call them, like have a volunteer group, give them a phone call, right? Especially right now. Now, if you have a really massive database, that might be hard to do. Secondly, maybe you could send them a direct mail piece to ask them. There is some challenges here that you really do need. If you're not familiar with CAN spam, you should go check it out. But CAN spam compliance is you really do need someone to give you permission to send them email, which means that they have downloaded, interacted with your business, bought something for you, gave you a donation. That automatically gives you by CAN spam the permission to email someone after up to 18 months after they've taken that action. But I think just calling someone, if you have their phone number. Now, again, that might seem really hard to do, but, a quick conversation, just we're wanting to update some records. We noticed that you gave to us, but we'd love to keep you up to date with the work we're doing. Would you be okay if we got your email address, and just get it that way. Again, can seem like a lot, but it can be really valuable.
Absolutely. And I think this will be our last question. So, Kaylee and a couple of others have actually asked, when you get a new donation, do you automatically opt them into emails?
Yes. And again, I would say absolutely, without question. And then, and some people like go above and beyond to let people opt out. And so, for example, in a lot of cases, we do a lot of co-marketing with different organizations and stuff like that. So Kindful will oftentimes send a note after someone has downloaded something, and we'll say, hey, you downloaded from this organization. They gave us your email address. As part of you downloading it, you gave us permission to send you an email. We're going to provide you a lot of information, like things like this. But we also want to let you know, if you don't want to receive these emails, just click here and we won't send them to you. And so there can be a way for you to really be very respectful of people's inboxes, and just provide a note that is an ability for people to opt out that is above the opt-out link at the bottom of the email.
I think that's a really good suggestion. Okay, great. So I think that's all the time we have. Bradley, did you have anything else that you wanted to add before we close out our session today?
I don't think so. Sorry, I know we were going to do a couple more things. Are we doing that now or
Yeah. Did you want to dive right into
I'm happy to, if you want to,
show a little bit more about Kindful to our audience. For those, while he's queuing that up, this recording is going to be available. We're selling notes and recordings for $30. You'll get access to everything over the course of these 2 days. So we'll go ahead and share that link as well. And just as a heads up, kind of following up from that last question that was asked, actually, you all are actually going to get a follow-up email from Kindful as one of our sponsors. So you will, just be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, and in that email, we're going to do exactly what I said that we were going to do, and that's going to say, hey, thanks so much for seeing our session, and do things like that. But if you don't want to receive these emails, just click here and we won't bother you anymore. So we'll make sure that we give you that opportunity.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Bradley. And then, I would love to see what you have to share with us for Kindful.
Sure. So I'm going to share my screen again. And so this is just meant to be kind of a quick, brief overview. Sorry, I'm getting my tabs all squared away here. And what I'm going to show you today is just a quick walkthrough of 2 to 3 minutes of how Kindful works, right? So I've already kind of teed up all the information here, but this is a Kindful donation page. We integrate with all kinds of online fundraising tools. Kindful has some very basic online fundraising tools, but if you're using a more sophisticated tool like CauseVox or many of the others, you can use those tools and get your donation data right into Kindful. But what I wanted to show is just how quickly Kindful grabs this information, creates a profile, and shows you things about your donor. So I've already put in some information here. I put in my wife's email address because she's not in the database already. I'm going to tell, I thought I already did this. Got to find all the bicycles here. Hopefully this works and I found them all. Whoops. This one gets a little bit easier, I think. Okay, so it knows I'm not a robot. So I have some security there. Hit submit. And so I just gave a $100 donation, right, with my handy dandy fake credit card that I get to use on our demo account. Kindful is going to give the constituent the ability to go ahead and create a donor account right off the bat. But what's really cool is now that I've given that donation, sorry, I'm getting all my Zoom menus and stuff in my way, is when I refresh the screen, first thing you're going to see is right now we have 4,013 donors, or 4,013 contacts. It just bumped to 4,014. You can see that Mandy Martin gave a $100 donation. And so our Kindful's dashboard is going to automatically aggregate all of this information, whether it's given through a donor, an actual online donation, through our own embedded forms or our own forms you can use through Kindful, or if you're using one of our mini integrations. And then in addition there, You can actually add transactions and everything that are offline. So if you want to just quickly add in a check or a cash donation, people still give cash donations. I don't know if that happens, but someone enters in a check, I can add someone in, add it to a donor profile. But Mandy wasn't already in the system. So not only did it update everything on the dashboard, it let us know, it automatically attached everything to the right campaign. But when I click on Mandy, now what we have is Mandy's full profile here. So over time, we're going to scrape the internet. This takes just a little bit of time. We're going to see if we can find any profiles from Mandy, like Facebook or LinkedIn, and we'll show her picture here. Got her address. I could go in and quickly add a quick note if I knew anything about Mandy. But then it starts to really build out Mandy's profile, right? So I can see that she's already part of the general campaign. And then over time, as she starts to interact with the organization, if she gets emails, if she opens the email, clicks on the email through MailChimp and things like that, all that data is just going to start to populate right here. And so, again, this is just the most brief example. If you're seeing our last session, you saw where we could segment, create groups. And then we do have all these really great integrations and reporting functionality. And so in our app directory, you can see that we integrate with many different, providers and Eventbrite, all these different tools, different event tools and QuickBooks. Another thing that's really cool is if you are a QuickBooks user and you get direct deposits that are donations, those can come right over as a donation and bring all of the data in. And so really, Kindful was built to be a center, a single point of truth in the center of all the different tools you use. And we know as organizations are getting more sophisticated, one tool can't serve all of your needs anymore. And so what we've built is a platform that really is meant to be a platform that you can connect the tools that you love to use, like MailChimp, CauseVox, other tools, and start to really get all of your data in one place. And so that's really kind of the quick overview of Kindful. As I said, that's the quickest demo I've ever given. And as I mentioned, if you want to learn more about Kindful, just go to kindful.com, fill out the demo form. We'd love to give you a demo, see if Kindful could be the right solution for you. We're not the right solution for everybody. And then we're also, for anyone who mentions that they saw us at the event, we will actually get you onboarded for free, which is typically about $1,000 value to get all of your historical data in, get your team trained, get your integration set up with one of our experts. So we kind of have a DIY standpoint, but we know right now, as we're going into end of year, it's really important to get all of your data in and everything. So we're offering that service for you guys for free.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Bradley, for the great session and for the really extensive Q&A session. There were so many great questions, more questions that we didn't even have the chance to answer. So if you want to stay on, type up some answers. Our team is also going to try and get to as many questions as possible.